G'day guys, today I just want to talk you through some images I collected during the rebuild of my Jeep Cherokee XJ. This is a 110 scale ABS plastic hard body and axial SCX10 II compatible chassis. I bought the car and a box of parts to build the chassis in November 2020. It's had a little bit of use since then. I'll put a couple of links to videos I've done with it in the description below. The car's been super reliable. It's smooth, it's quiet, it's responsive, does everything I need. And it's always been there ready to go. I've only had a couple of minor breaks on it, both driver error. I use it sometimes to test parts for other cars, and most of my cars are SCX10 II all compatible, and parts interchange is an easy issue. More recently I got the idea to customise the body. I wanted to go for a competition theme, and I decided to pinch the front end and the rear end as well. If a chassis requires more than stock body clearance to articulate fully, then getting the wheels and tyres more outside of the body will be one answer. I don't think the current chassis is going to articulate that much. In fact, I'm positive it don't. But then I'm not sure now that this chassis is staying with this body. Feel free to post any comments down below, or you can catch up on Facebook. My Hunt Chassis page there has more info on this build and my others. Send a friend request to get full access to all the content there. You see here something similar to what I'm shooting for. Not so much the apparent stock body of the vehicle, but the side treatment of the rear passenger area and luggage area, a lack of glass back there. And something similar is happening here. On the top of the front of the body, I've measured up and marked out material that I want to be removed, and in the front grille panel I'll have to remove a similar amount from there, and same with the rear tailgate panel. How much is removed out of there I'll determine after I make these cuts, and I can get a better measurement across here of the front once the cuts have been done and the body has all been brought together. This image almost exactly represents the amount that I've got to take out of the front grille here, and also a similar amount to come out of the rear tailgate area. That's a substantial amount to section out of the front grille panel, and I think it was about, from memory, I think it was about 24 millimeters. I had to make this cut here to ensure that the headlight mounting area here moved inward toward the center of the vehicle. Here you can still see the lines where I intend to cut material from, and once this material here is removed, this line comes in to meet that, then all this has got to move with it, otherwise we'd have to fabricate something else up there. Once the cuts are made, I've used cable ties here to bring the both sides of the body in toward the main body panel here. You can see where the cuts have been made there, and the same cut was made along there. You can see I've put in screws into these holes that are normally used to mount the fender flares, and I've done that to ensure that the cable ties don't slip forward and or out of place from where they should be. You can see these two up here are up against the screws because they were really going to move out of place. I think this one here too. This one here didn't matter that much, but that's how I did it to bring the two sides in together. I've seen YouTube videos where people heat up this area here to get to soften the material and move it toward the center of the vehicle, but there's not one of those I've seen that's ever been done successfully. They generally end up in curves and warps and all sorts of disruptions to the side panel here. I think from memory, one of the videos, the guy got it so bad here that he turned the car into a rat rod, so it wouldn't matter that much. Here's basically the same image again. This is the material that was removed from both sides, from this area here. Once these are correctly lined up, the height adjustment is made here, and they're brought in to meet this panel here. They'll be tacked in place with super glue. You can see also this part that I mentioned before has moved over toward the center of the vehicle, and we can now tack that to the main body panel here. Here we have the super glue applied. All the restraints are off the car. Everything stayed in place. Everything went pretty well, really. You can see here that the body starts to turn in from about the A-pillar to here. And in fact, I checked a straight edge along the door, and it appears the door hasn't curved anything at all, which was really good. I wasn't really sure of that. When I do cuts like this, I will initially tack it in place with super glue, and then I get back over and almost fill the gap with super glue and then sprinkle on bicarb soda. It generates a polymerization whereby the mix of bicarb soda and super glue become a plastic of sorts, become a polymer, and the end result, from my experience, is that this stuff is even harder than the base material. Here I'm indicating that this body line used to meet with a small line there in the front grille panel, but is way out now. It's out to the amount of half of what the chop taken out of the grille was. So there's this amount here, and you can see there, that's the same as this one. You can see there on the other side, and then here's the other edge of the bonnet indicated here. So I've got to do something there to fix that up. You can see here there's a bit of a gap there. This is actually, this line along here is not so much out of alignment. It is, but only a little bit. It looks worse there, but it's not that bad, and it'll easily be filled. We're looking at the front of the car again, and more particularly this time, I suppose, the front grille panel. And you can see just here where the cut was made through it. And in the foreground here, you can see the piece that was removed. That, I think I mentioned before, was about 24 centimetres wide. And once I'd glued these sides together, I decided that I really needed to get the grill done next, and to get it in place and get it welded right to the body, to ensure that these side panels, which would be for some time under some sort of stress, under some sort of pressure to return to where they came, that this front panel would give strength there and keep things all together. This is my CA glue and bicarb soda, and that's basically how I do it. Pour a bit of this on, sprinkle this on top, and let it do its thing. With this CA glue, I use a medium, which gives you a little wiggle room if you use it on its own, but instantly applying this instantly creates a hard bond. So you don't want to use it in a place where you really need some time for the glue to set up, and you rely on that time for the glue to set up. So one clue is, what I do is tack it in place with just plain CA glue, go the process and wait for it to set, have everything in place, and then reapply more CA glue, and at that time sprinkle on the bicarb soda mix. You don't actually need much of that, and in fact you don't want too much. You want to ensure that here it looks pretty good. You want to ensure you've got enough glue on to make the two panels stay together, and you want to ensure that you only add enough CA glue to strengthen that bond and to accelerate the setup. If you have any amount of this bicarb soda and CA glue mix, if you have any amount of it sitting up above the joined surfaces, sanding that down is just going to be so much harder. This mix here gets really hard. So I did it in a previous body I cut up, and I learned from there. I did it in one spot and learnt my lesson, and thereafter I just tack it all together, then add in this case I added CA glue along that gap, which wasn't much of a gap. I quickly wipe off with a paper towel any excess CA glue, then I sprinkle this stuff on fairly lightly, and as soon as I've gone across sprinkling the bicarb soda, I'll then use a piece of paper towel and wipe any excess off so that I don't get any build up. You're relying on the CA glue in the join between the two pieces, the CA glue and the bicarb soda mix, in between the two pieces, and not protruding above it where you're going to have to work to cut it back. This is a view from the top, and you get a general idea of how much the front's been pinched in. You can see I've got some CA glue and bicarb soda mix fairly liberally applied in here, not so much on the joins, but this is the remnants of a recess in the body panel and the hood that was for the artificial air vent items that went in there. The car used this front bar for quite a while, but obviously that's not going to fit anymore. Now once we've got the front established, I came to the back, and this is the piece, a V or pie cut, I took out of the roof. This is at the back edge across here, which equated to 24 millimeters, the same as the total in the front. And I went up to a point where the converging lines met, and I cut that out. Don't worry about these other lines. They're previous attempts at getting measurements, etc., correct, and were discarded. And now I've used again cable ties to bring everything together. I had to ensure that I had the proper curve in the roof here, and then I need to cut a piece out of here and get that panel back onto the rear of the car. Some of these panels, like this one here and the front grille panel, when you buy the body out of the box, these things need to be screwed to the rest of the body. This part here, if you look here, you can actually see where this rear half of the station wagon body is screwed to the front half of the station wagon body, and then the roof is in two pieces. But in doing all this work, once I got everything in place, they're all fully welded in. It doesn't rely on any screws at all. Here I've cut down through the center of the tailgate panel, and I've got alignment down there and the same down the other side. It's tacked in place. It's then been fully welded with the CA glue bicarb soda and then tacked onto the back. Having decided that I've got the rear end secure, then I come up and start attending to the not smaller jobs of bogging up the body, but because it's a much bigger job. Cutting the body was easy, quick. All this final work in filling gaps and doing things is a tedious job. It's a good job. I like doing it. I like getting it right if I can, or the best I can do it, but it is tedious. Here I'm trying some putties I hadn't used before. Perfect plastic putty, and this is a Leo plastic putty. And I thought they might be the go because they required less work than putty I had been doing. They were a one-part putty, both of them. And initially on applying them, they seemed to do what I was asking. It said that they, from what I read on YouTube, I believe that they don't shrink as much as Tamiya putties do. So I was keen to try that out, but what I found out was when I went to wet sand these areas smooth to see if I'd got it all right, the glue started to come apart, and of course, yeah, righto dickhead, you know, read the instructions, so I do, and they're water soluble, which means that once they set up even, they'll come apart when you start banging water on them. Initially I thought I'd get away with dry sanding and then priming them, and so water wouldn't get in there, but I was concerned that there might be some way water can get in from the inside of the vehicle. Not even like heavy submersion of water, because I've rarely taken any of my cars and submerged them in water. Once I did it, and that was unintentional because I wasn't aware how deep the water was, but I wouldn't do it normally. However, I just thought there was a risk there, and once you go finishing off all this area and getting paint on top, if your putty underneath starts to play up, then you're up shit creek, really. This is quite a bit advanced down the track, mocking up the body on the chassis. We're getting towards, or think we're getting towards, final body preparation. That's a thing I always say, that with this sort of body work, the closer you think you are to finishing, in reality, the further away you actually are. This is the back view. The back panel fitted on nicely. When I first had it all fitted up, I clamped it in place so that the line from here across was not only correct, so that this level edge you see here would match, but so that it was dead straight from here across the body to the other side. But it seems that in settling, it actually has curved in a little bit. So not a real big issue. I'll address that down the track. I may need to break the weld, do it again, but I doubt it. That's not going to be easy. I'll probably have to use a saw and cut through there again. In here you can see some weld from the sectioning the rear panel, and I'll get this area good and tidy, and the same across here. But this piece here, I'm not going to concern myself about it. It's difficult to get in there to sand. I've got way too much glue and CA glue on there, as I mentioned before. It's very hard to sand. What I'll do at the end of the day is just mock up a number plate and put over the top of it. Here it's sitting next to my Comanche 6x6 body, but you can see, you know, the width of that, the front of that body compared to this one now. I think, if I recall correctly, you can see these sections in the grille, and I think it's 3 of them or 2 of them that have been removed. Here's the join up here, still not filled completely, but so it's a fair bit of a sectioning there, and you can also see the line down here. This is the rear, and a bit the same. The 6x6 body used 2 Comanche tubs brought together, but the alignment down here was very nearly perfect, very good. So the distance from here across to there is very representative of the distance that existed before the ute or tub or bed was cut up. So you can see from well, here across here, you can see from here across here how much shorter that measurement would be. Here's the 6x6 body, and don't want to go too much into that, but yeah, you can also see here how that curves in. I'm filling areas here that need to be filled and some small gaps in that, and I'm covering over the lights here and the side marker lights there. This is a competition vehicle and nobody uses indicators or side marker lights, so we'll get rid of them. Bit more work done on the body. Like I say, I think I'm getting close, but I'm really not. Bit more attention to the gaps here, where the those false vents sat in the original hood. A bit more attention here to where I filled the gap between the front grille panel and the front body panel, or the front hood panel. This is the body here. It's had its first colour on. This is a colour called Sunflower by Hyundai. And you can see how I'm sort of filling this in. I'm not trying to eliminate the shape of those Parker indicator lenses or side markers altogether, but blending it out a bit since they're not in use. Okay, with the XJ back in the paint shop, it gets its second colour, which is graphite, a Toyota colour, and then coated clear over the top. Here I've used the yellow is a duplicolour paint, and the grey, metallic grey, is also a duplicolour paint. I'm just trying these out. However, with this build I've already noticed that there's some reaction between the duplicolour paints, which are acrylic, and one of the primers I've been using, which is also acrylic, but still there's some issue there. I need to resolve that if I'm going to use duplicolours anymore. I find duplicolours are good because there's a big range of them, and you know, size on size per 100 mils or something, they're way cheaper than Tamiya paints and others. Out in the sun, this is given a pretty true look, a bit blurry I suppose, but pretty true look at the yellow. Here, looking down the side, you see how far the front right wheel is protruding out of the body, and down the back, a bit hard to see the rear end of the body in this shot, but you can see the inside edge of the wheel here is sort of just under the body there. Giving a nice look at the Toyota graphite metallic paint. And this is back where we started. You're looking at the same body, the same chassis, just some time ago. Been a good project, been interesting, been some challenges, but at the end of the day they're all rewarding. It's always good to get your major cutting and applying filler and smoothing all that down, and it's always good to get the first coat of primer across the whole body. It gives you a real good look at where you should be going next, and it just sort of brings everything together and under the one cover, and gives a look at some of your good spots and some of your bad spots. Also gives a look at low spots and high spots that you need to attend to, but Generally speaking, I always feel really good when I get that primer on, and of course nothing beats getting the final colour on. That's the pinnacle, I reckon. But there you go. Don't forget, leave comments down below if you wish. Check out on Facebook my Hunt Chassis page for more info and more images about this build, and of course all my other builds on there. And thanks for watching.